mom was having technical difficulties. She'd come in,
She's a mom.
I'm like, Mom, you gotta go on mute. You gotta go on mute. And she was just kind of like, what? Working in events since 2005, I've always been inspired by people coming together to share ideas. I'm Amanda Younger, and I'll be your host on Happy Hour, where I share a drink and a laugh with guests over stories and our hope for the future of the live event experience. Today, I'll be speaking to Zoe Gorringe, event manager at NYC Pride. Special thank you to Laxamana Media, You Create, We Capture, and thank you to Abita Brewing Company over in Louisiana. This is a special connection with Zoe, as she is also from Louisiana. So if you're ever in the Nolens section of town, make sure that you jump on that long bridge across the lake and head on over to Abita Brewing Company. Be sure to continue the conversation with us online at eventspeak.com. Subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify and iHeartRadio, and favorite us on Stitcher to get all upcoming episodes and help others find our show. Review and give us a rating on YouTube. Love as much feedback as possible in our early stages. A promotional giveaway is in the works, so check back in soon. Together, we can make the difference in live events. Thanks for sitting in with me today. Today, I'm giving respect to my Louisiana colleague with the Purple Haze lager. It's brewed with real raspberries, added after filtration, and brewed with Pilsner and wheat malts and Vanguard hops. It's a tartly sweet taste, much like my next guest. Hey, Zoe.
Hey, Amanda.
Tell everyone who you are, what you do, and what you're drinking for happy hour.
For sure. My name is Zoe. I'm an event manager for NYC Pride. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am currently drinking White Girl Rosé.
I love it. I love it. All right. Cheers to you. Mm-hmm. That's good with cheese. Have you ever tasted something and just said, that's good with cheese? That's
almost anything, really.
Well, Zoe, your team just finished a huge broadcast on ABC. You kept the protest, you integrated grand marshals in a digital form, but everything seemed seamless on TV, so bravo to you and your countless hours to keep the movement alive. I wanted to know, tell everyone kind of what the NYC Pride March is on like a normal year.
Well, a whole lot different. And the NYC Pride March is sometimes referred to as the NYC Pride Parade. However, internally, we still call it the March, and we will continue to call it the March until all human beings have equal rights under the law. So though there are celebration elements, like we still keep that protest alive and still keep that visibility alive. In a normal year, so we're going to have to dial back to 2018, you see about 90 floats and approximately 50,000 participants within the event and about 2.5 million people coming to watch the event. 2019 was a special year, Amanda, as you know. It was our World Pride year, as well as the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. So that year, the march had 150,000 participants, as well as 160 floats. So a very large increase from a normal march situation.
That's just, it sounds like just a march that just lasts a weekend.
You know, you would think, but at least for 2019, we got it done in about 12 hours, which I think is a huge accomplishment, considering the amount of people you have on foot. Because like, in addition to
in Manhattan, what's its like? How far are people marching? How far are people going on this?
About 2 miles, so it's just shy of 2 miles.
2 miles, 12 hours.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
It was a lot of people. In addition to all those floats you hear folks talk about, we also have like these giant double-decker buses, and like, you know, some folks need to bring a vehicle for mobility purposes, and puppets and roller skates, and you never know what's going to show up.
And they've actually, there's a rumor that usually there's a bus or a float that goes by and someone like Lady Gaga or something like comes out of the crowd and just jumps on it and isn't seen during formation at all.
Lady Gaga loves the cameo.
Loves jumping up.
We never know where she's going to show up or when, which really puts a lot on us and our volunteer team, because we do try to reduce the overall NYPD presence for these events. You know, it's a sensitive community that has strife in that area. So we try to keep it very volunteer focused. But when it comes to something like Lady Gaga jumping a barricade, it's a whole nother story.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of the march was based on the police brutality back in '69. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
The Hetz
I mean,
parade.
you know, it's still
The
Manhattan.
Stonewall riots of '69.
The Stonewall uprising with Martha P. Johnson. But you know, it's Manhattan, and we're talking 4 million people out in the streets. So there has to be some level of NYPD presence just to keep folks safe and, you know, away from any larger harm, as we are a soft target. But we do our best to self-police with our volunteer team. They go through certain trainings, and we work very closely with the city to make sure that everybody is comfortable.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, it's one thing, I think, as a New York resident, previously, I just always knew, if Pride's going on, maybe just stay out of Manhattan for a little bit. just let that happen.
I mean, we say that the march route is 2 miles, but the footprint we take up is much larger than that.
Yeah, you kind of, yeah. Well, sure, because you have your back of house is basically still on the street, because everything is exposed.
Exactly.
A concert, at least in a concert, there's in front of the stage, and then there's everything behind the stage, and then I can even put, you know, another pier next door and just have like some golf carts going back and forth, and have like a whole other section closed off. And it's just kind of you don't have that, so it's just streets and then some more streets.
it's just streets. But I can tell you, looking back at this whole experience, there's nothing better than driving a golf cart in traffic past Madison Square Garden on a Sunday. Just like, hey guys, I'm here. Just gonna zip on over here. Very cool.
I remember when I was seasonal and I was just doing contract work with NYC Pride, I had the street festival. So that was pretty tidy, so that when we finished, we were in our golf carts just running on the streets, because so many of the streets were barricaded and blocked down. And weren't open to public vehicles, that, you know, we were running straight back to our office in on Christopher Street, dumping things off, picking up volunteers, march volunteers, because formation had already started to come back. And there's so many of those volunteers that it was like, jump on our cart too. And it was like, okay, we got to go to the dance on the pier. And then we all took off on golf carts again, heading down into Tribeca, further south. And it was like you basically, it came up onto Hudson River Park Trust on their sidewalk and walkways. The police would be like, yep, I need you off of the West Side Highway. But that was the only street that they basically were like, no, cars are on West Side Highway.
You can't be here.
Going to the park and driving down the park. And we were like, yeah. It was like, for one day, we just kind of like ran this whole area, and we all headed like this golf cart caravan to Tribeca, and you just saw like the lights were dancing, you could hear the music, and you're like, is that still DJ music or is it Ariana Grande? And someone would be like, I don't know, but I think she's gonna start soon. We're like, we're gonna make it,
before the fireworks.
We've gotta make it. And then I think every year after that, I've seen people arrive like right when the fireworks are coming off, and you're like, I'm so sorry. And then other people just never saw it, just never got there, and then we had to like move the like you. But there was this amazing, I think it was always just kind of like, what was your pride moment? And people are always like, when it's done and we struck everything and we're packed up and we have completed our journey. And I'm like, no, it was the golf cart ride on the streets of Manhattan. I waved at people. And that's the other thing is people are like, it's residential streets. People are outside.
Like, what is this lady doing on a golf cart?
Partying in the streets. There's a protest you run into because there's like a bunch of them happening all at that time. And you're like, beep, beep. Hey, and everyone's like, yeah, you guys, you did a great job today. And you're like, we did a great job today. Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, in my experience with the march, the years that I have run it, it's usually still happening when those fireworks go off. So, I mean, y'all have a great time at the pier.
No, I mean, you've come on, and I think you came on specifically because it was growing so big and so rapidly, and I don't think we could have done it any other way.
Thanks. Yeah, I think the rate of its growth is exponential. Obviously going from 2018 to 2019, we were going to see an increase because it was the World Pride year and the Stonewall 50 year. Mm-hmm. But prior to COVID, registration was open, and those numbers were getting pretty high for 2018 standards. So I'm really interested to see what happens to Pride marches in general moving forward, not just ours, but any scenario similar, and what that's going to look like after this pandemic.
Well, how has COVID affected you specifically on, we saw the broadcast, but that was drastically different than what you've done in the past. And it's going to be completely different than, what you probably do in the future. But so how have you adjusted, something of this large scale and try to keep it from being a public gathering? Because, I mean, kind of the whole point is that people come out and go like, yes, we see you. I love you. Like, that's kind of the purpose. So how do you do that? How do you manage that?
It was, we're all event people here, right? Like we know what touch and go means, and we know flying by the seat of our pants. But I think through a lot of this planning process, the storyline changed every day, even back in April. Once we finally knew that, we're not going to be able to have this event as it is, we need to start rethinking it. So way back in April, Amanda, I even feel like I talked to you about this on the phone. I was like, okay, I've got an ultimate plan, and then I have 7 backup plans, and then backup plans to those backup plans on what we can do. And at the time, our biggest concern was social distancing, right? In various different levels, whether we don't want folks to say that we brought them into the streets, so Heritage Pride is why people got COVID. And then also, bringing it back to our friends in the city being like, we can't allow you to do something like this because it can come back on us. Mm-hmm. So ultimately we had come up with this tiered system of what we call the Balloon Arch March. And I think I'm going to trademark that. Historically, for those who don't know, the march always begins with a Heritage of Pride banner, and we normally do 6 massive, oversized balloon arches of the Gilbert Baker flag.
This is the banner with sequins that were hand sewn by an activist in 72 or something like that.
1972. And
it's an old one that we're constantly careful, careful, careful.
It doesn't even have the BT. It just says lesbian and gay. It's very, very old.
Right. That's how old it is.
And once we kind of internally decided okay, on some level, we're going to have to take something to the streets. And we were thinking of it at the time, flash mob style. We'll have this big audio truck, and folks who are in their homes will be like, but where's Beyonce coming from? And they look down on the street and it's oh, we're still gay. And it's the whole, this joyous moment that we can all celebrate together at home and still be seen. But as things go, that altered itself. Initially we thought we were going to have volunteers on the ground carrying these balloons, and then we were we can't have that many people out. We planned for certain signage. My favorite sign that I actually have saved and hanging in my apartment says, we're here, we're queer, stay clear, see you next year.
Nice.
You know, and just having that visual out in the street that we normally would historically take over for 12 and a half hours.
Yeah.
As we got a bit closer to our event, the terrible tragedy of George Floyd and all the other members of the Black community that we lost to police brutality, and all of the Black Lives Matter protests that started to pop up in and around the city, and in and around the country, we had to take a more somber look at what we were hoping to be a more beautiful moment. And that's okay, and that was needed. So we ended up filling our Grand Marshal vehicles, which normally the Grand Marshal would have ridden in, with these balloon activations, but with the progress flag instead. So it started with the black and brown balloons, moving on to trans flag instead of the standard.
Yeah.
We also traded out a lot of those like fun, funky signs we had created way back in April for more politically driven and activist driven signage. Knowing that our broadcast would be picking up this procession, we wanted to make sure that those voices were heard, those names were said, and that image, that solidarity moment, like out in the streets that we take every year, was there. The broadcast itself was just a whole nother process, but that procession was, I think, very important for the folks that normally march and being able to represent the community in those streets that day.
Yeah, and you had, and you also had a bus route.
So once we partner with ABC7 for our broadcast every year. And once they kind of got wind of this procession that we were putting together, they were like, oh, so how are we going to film it the whole time? And I was like, I don't know.
You still doing that? Oh, we can do that. We can jump in. We got a camera.
So where's the camera going to go?
Right.
And I was like, and at the time, you know, again, flying by the seat of our pants. Every day it was something new. Were the cameramen able to be in a car together or not? Like, how many people could be in a car together at a time? And like, so we went back and forth with all these SUVs. Lord bless CC Rentals. They probably hate me now.
Well, I remember, I remember us calling, talking about golf carts. I remember calling our golf cart vendor, and her going like, hey, like the city's using me. And I can't, like, I have nothing until they're done. Like, there's no set time, but they're buzzing around, and I can't even give you a quote because I don't even think it's going to be available.
Right.
And that's what I was finding numerous times in numerous places. Vendors were like, I'd love to quote you on it, but I don't think I'm going to be available on porta potties, on tents. I think tents started to give me a quote, and then they were like, I got to pull back. Golf carts couldn't give me a quote. So I can imagine working with the rental cars, because those were also going all over the place because people were renting cars and leaving town, doing it one way, and this whole thing.
Nobody wants to take a subway right now.
No one's taking a subway.
Yeah.
Right.
So just back and forth on all that. And then I finally, if you remember, Amanda, my sweet friend Brendan at Vector Media, he reached out to me just to be like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, you've got buses. So we commissioned, well, not really, it was donated, pretty much, but commissioned in the sense of we put their logo on something, right? A double-decker bus that had a video screen on the side of it, where we were showing promotional footage. We didn't have quite enough time to make it so that it live fed the broadcast, but that was the ideal.
Yeah.
Then we had these guys with cameras up there all day, just like with the procession. And we had one of our anchors, Kimberly Richardson, was up there, and we were shooting her just driving around the city on Pride Sunday. And it ended up being a really beautiful part of this whole situation, because once we got down to the wire, and I do mean the day before, we were informed that no official permits could be given. the folks who needed to know what we were doing knew what we were doing, and to handle it with the best care that we could within regular traffic.
Wow.
Which was fine, and it worked out just fine because we worked with our friend John Sheehan.
Yeah.
And he brought some guys, and we just held off the crosswalks when
there are security guys. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just like helped me. We were like, "Hey, cars, you can't drive here right now. Please hold," and then it would, just move right along.
Nice. I didn't know that you used the private security for just a little traffic control for broadcast. That's great.
Well, again, because of a lot of the climate going on right now, we definitely wanted to reduce that police presence around this event, and
no, I understand that.
Just around the community in general.
That's good.
So we brought Sheehan and Sons on, and they were like, "Whatever you need." Yeah. And I was like, "I'm not even sure what we need yet, but I'll know by the time you get there."
I mean, I know. I remember when we were first vetting them and talking with them and being with them. I would go to like one of their other events, and they'd be out there still like directing traffic, going around the Cooper. And
who's the other?
So you're out here directing traffic, and they're like, "Yeah, that's our side job."
But they were so friendly and so helpful.
That's great.
They drove me around that day because I didn't have a golf cart.
It's great just to have those alternatives.
Yeah.
So that's
but it was very, very quick moving, having to navigate that bus around on a live broadcast schedule. Like we had, obviously we had certain shots we wanted, the Washington Square Park Arch and Edie Windsor's apartment building and Stonewall. But getting that bus from point A to point B in time for the live moment was, I planned a very large march last year. This was, I think, more stressful.
Yeah? Well, yeah, because yours was strategically planned to hit certain marks, right, for TV, for a camera. And before it was like, I just need you to
walk down the street
as quickly as possible. Please keep moving. I don't care where your bags are. Keep moving. Yeah.
But it happened. So that's good. And I feel really good about that. I feel we've received a lot of feedback from the community since that, like, some of it maybe came off a little tone deaf, but I think that those folks need to go and look at the full broadcast. So everyone here, I will share the link so you can go watch it, because there's some really beautiful performances and some really strong messages from activists and members of our community that really just make it all worth it.
They really were. I know that I was unable to be on site. But
we miss you.
But I was able to be part of the watch party, and kind of we all gathered round, and we had it on the TV, and then we also had it on the computer with the watch party, kind of with the shared screen and everything, and it was just it was nice to see what like they got. Like the quicker feed, and they had more stuff actually on the TV than what was broadcast through the internet. So, but the online experience, it would cut in, and you'd be like, oh yeah, they missed a couple little bits in the beginning, but not a problem. And then that's not on you. And then we would see all of the side stories and stuff like that. But because it was a watch party, we were able to, chat with each other and have that shared experience with each other, which is usually what
you would have done on a golf cart on the West Side Highway, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually, I invited my mom to the watch party, and it was actually the first time my mom and I ever watched Pride together, and it was
that's great.
Yeah. And my mom's never actually experienced any Pride. She just knows that I do it, and then I've invited her, but then she's like, should I really? And I'm like, not really. I'll be so busy. That
I say the same thing to my mom. I'm like, I won't see you, so
like it's not going to be fun for you.
Honestly, this is the
like
first time.
I have Anna like slinging beer. Like,
Yeah, like on the beer.
What am I going to do with you? What are you going to do? And my mom probably be part of the working group. Be like, oh, do you need a wristband? I'm going to wristband people. Like,
This is the first time I've talked to anybody that actually was on the Zoom watch party. Low-key,
yeah.
forgot
I cried because I was like, I'm with my mom for the first time for Pride, you guys, and they were like, that's beautiful, and I was like, it is.
That's really good.
And then mom was having technical difficulties. She'd come in, I'm like, Mom, you gotta go on mute. And she was just kind of like, what? We all hear Dad. Please go on mute.
Did everybody seem to be having a good time at the Zoom watch party? Like, were y'all having fun?
Oh yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. And as a matter of fact, when it goes to advertisement breaks, I was like, it would be really cool is if we had the DJ SoundCloud mixes that we uploaded yesterday, if we like played those during in between. And then sure enough, that's what they were like, on it, Amanda. And I was like, yeah.
That's cool.
Every time it went to advertisement, it was like, it's also like, what is it? 11 a.m. It's like brunch time. We're like mimosas. Because of course the DJ mix is a nighttime mix. Whatever. It was great. It completed the experience, if you will. Complete the dream.
It really rounded out your viewership.
Yeah, it really did.
I'm really glad.
It just elevated it just a little bit more. Took it to another level. Because
it's impossible for me to. I mean, I'm sure anybody can relate, but it's impossible for me to watch it and not be like, ugh, But I'm glad that people enjoyed it.
The vehicle isn't going fast enough. Where's the float? Yeah. No, I think I've watched it with you before, and you're like, no. And I'm like, well, I think it's fun.
I mean, yeah, watching the broadcast when it's like the whole march, and I'm just like, they're out of order.
Those guys drove me crazy.
Yeah. But I'm glad that the Pride special came off well.
Absolutely.
It was really,
well,
we worked really hard on it.
I'm also super glad that you were able to work with the city so much so that you could make it happen, even though the mayor's office was unable, basically there was an executive order to where they couldn't give you any permits. But it's super glad that you were still able to pull it off and keep Pride alive. So again, kudos to you and your team. You did an amazing job. A little bit of this. I also received the press release today that named you in a list of leading event producers and professionals appointed to the Citywide Events Advisory Group. I had to read it, but so yeah, I understand you're assisting the city to reimagine event models and standards, and that you're collaborating with the mayor's office to kind of strategize best practices. They had share industry-wide solutions, recommend innovations, and protocols for events. So what has this, one, what was this like? And then, and is it, two, is it still going on? Maybe, I don't know. And then three, like, what is that? Basically, what's your expectations? What should we be prepared for events in New York?
Well, I'm super humbled that they asked me to join this. Like, honestly, I was like,
I think they understand the scope.
Okay, I'll do it. No, so we have a friend in, the mayor's office, Citywide Events, someone that we work with really often. And she reached out very early on in quarantining, letting me know that this working group was being built. And in its inception, I don't think anybody expected it to continue as it has so far. So they reached out to, your usual suspects. We've got some folks from GovBall. We've got some folks from DOT and FDNY and all these other event companies. This amazing woman who runs like the wine and food fest they do down in Tribeca every summer. Some Tribeca Film Fest people. It's really an insane roster, and I'm so lucky to be involved and being able to talk with these people. But the way that it sort of unfolded was we were a group of about 30. Mm-hmm. And once a week, sometimes twice, we'd get broken out into smaller groups where you'd be with a random selection of other people from within this list. And you would brainstorm and just kind of like Shark Tank a random event concept. Like nothing too off the wall, but like nothing.
All the hypotheticals, right?
Yeah. Just like a farmer's market, a street fair, a ticker tape parade. And you got to explore all these concepts with different people consistently. So I jumped from concept to concept. And whenever I went into a new one, I already had notes that the group that had been in there previously had left us. Like, this is what we thought about. This is what we think we could work out. Mm-hmm. And then we would get to build onto that. So over the course of 2 months, maybe a little longer than 2 months, we really fleshed out a variety of different events in all kinds of situations, whether that's fireworks on a pier or...
Sorry.
or Pride Fest, like it's
right.
all, and Governor's Island, of course, we're all talking about concerts.
You gotta talk about a festival.
But I think it's been really enlightening, both for the folks inside the group, but also for our friends in the city who are moderating the group, to understand moving forward what might be needed as far as like permitting offices, or do people need to have someone on site that's specific for preventing infection, mm-hmm. or what that looks like, and what kinds of things need to just be adjusted to adjust to the new normal. My favorite one, and I hope they stick to it, is allowing us to hang signage on NYPD barricades.
On where?
NYPD barricades. Right now, you cannot hang signs on them. But you think about it, right? And they're all over the city, and you can go and put 6-foot markers on them.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be event specific.
Right.
It could just be any barricade. And then if you're too close to somebody.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing. Mostly because, I know for us, just for one day, we kind of exhausted their full supply of barricades, to where parks have to bring out their barricades. I know Hudson River Park has to pull all of theirs out. And then on top of that, they'll even ask you should probably rent. And then, so on top of that, we've got a vendor that's like, how many barricades do you need? And I'm like, a lot.
All of them. But I got a lot of shade in these working groups, because I was like, I do that big Pride thing, and they're like, you take all the barricades in June.
Like, yes, I do.
Every single one. I'm really sorry.
Millions of people. I got to take all the barricades.
Hello. But on the same subject, the DOT also needs to revisit street laminates. Mm-hmm. You go into a grocery store right now, and there's lines of tape on the linoleum, but DOT doesn't let you put things on the street.
Yeah.
So how can you replicate that kind of practice that people are used to seeing in their everyday life right now, as in regards to social distancing, and make it apply to an event that loads in and loads out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, so something is so, and I wouldn't call that small, but something as small as produce stand, mm-hmm. In these working groups became a conversation that was built upon by multiple people in different stages, right? Wow. Like, as we got to know each other a little bit, we all started getting a little more radical with our ideas, and and then you would switch to a whole new group and you meet all new people who have all other kinds of experience. Like, I'm the parade girl, right? And like, that's where my head's at.
Like,
But
okay,
then you,
got all the numbers. Okay, this is where we
yeah,
go.
I can like rattle them off.
Manhattan, like the back of my head. Take that.
I can do the
subway, don't do
streets.
that one. Yeah.
And I think a lot of my experience in planning out how many people can fit in a street for formation really applied to these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then like just hanging out on a brainstorm call with, I don't know, this lady who does the wine and food fest. We're polar opposites, but our brains worked the same way. So once we got on a tangent, like, couldn't stop us.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, it's been really fun. From what I understood, the working group was finished just before Pride. In fact, I had to miss the last call because of Pride, and I was very sad about it. But with that press release, we were sent an email being like, we're going to be in touch soon about further discussion. So I'm very excited that it's going to continue, because it's been so good for me to just kind of like exercise my brain like this.
Yeah.
Normally I've got 4 million people to deal with and some balloons. So this has been really fun for me.
And I also think it's good as like someone who's coming from a very specific background of, you worked in like a jazz venue before. So you've gone from a space like this is as big as it gets to a march route that has, is 2 miles, has changed, has switched around and flip it back. And now you're in a room where you get to think about events and event spaces and the safety of those people in like beyond your current experience, right? So you have your own expertise and your own perception that you're bringing in to a street festival or to something like a concert or a festival, or just like other hypotheticals, and you can be like, well,
so exciting.
Just to let you know, the floats come in from Jersey work on. So like, let's say that is the buses coming from the Bronx over to Randall's Island. Okay, I'm with you.
All right.
Yeah.
But it's also, and very similar to some things, Amanda, you and I were discussing on a work call earlier today, it was really nice to, Dan Gross was the one who opened up the conversation. He goes, take everything that you know and shake it like an etch-a-sketch. So like we could like recreate how you think about a parade, right? Like maybe the floats are stationary and the people are the ones that move.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and just being able to just like recreate the wheel has just been really exciting.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Actually, that's pretty cool.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I'm here all day. Yeah, what if floats weren't mobile? What if they parked?
What if the crowd was mobile?
Small experiences along the way. Yeah, absolutely.
This double-decker bus with a large screen on the side of it. Hello. It's all coming from the same brain.
Yeah. Oh no, I like that. That's great. And then you have enough distance from the actual marchers, which are the ones that are moving, and people are moving.
You can size the groups in a way that can keep them socially distant on their path.
Right. No, that's a great idea, especially a great way to like compartmentalize them and kind of move them. And of course, you can go like, well, the stray sheep that goes off to the side. Be like, well, there'll always be that. That's what
you're always going to have a stray sheep. But then also when it comes to like things like contact tracing, like the pod that each individual person was in, right?
Yep. Yeah. No, this is great. And I look forward to learning so much more.
Yeah.
From the different findings and different ideas that are coming, because it's clearly stuff that we all have to adopt if we're going to do events in New York. And I am super happy to be your colleague, to be your friend, and basically spurge all of that knowledge from you that I possibly can. And it sounds like you've learned so much from it. Like one, you've done so much to even become a part of this advisory committee, and now you've learned so much more. So I look forward to hearing where it takes you, and and hopefully there's, new projects for you to do and tackle, and maybe we'll send people that way. But we'll also make sure that the segment, so that everyone can see the ABC broadcast, I'll make sure that add that to this, so everyone can get to see it and get to learn from it. And then, I hope to have you back on where we can learn more from you, especially any new projects you get in your back pocket.
Well, I do love staying booked and busy, so I'm sure I will share ways to find me. Let me know if you ever need any help with anything. I'm really good at picking it up, making it work.
Absolutely. All right. Well, it was so great talking with you today, and I'll send everyone straight to you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Bye, guys.